Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today on Latakian's Nor Kitchen we're gonna make burnt cheesecake or San Sebastian. That's right, if you've ever made a cheesecake and while you were eating it you were thinking, this is good, but I wonder how much better it will be if I did everything wrong. Well my friends, this style cheesecake is the answer to that question. It's one of the best cheesecake in the world. It's super easy to make, but it has a secret, and the secret is burning it. Yeah, that's right. So with that, let's go ahead and get started by prepping our paper and butter. And the first thing we'll do is spread the inside of our pan with a generous amount of soft butter, unsalted, and preferably grass-fed. And then what we do once our pan has been thoroughly greased is do the exact same thing to a large piece of parchment paper. And we want to make sure to spread that all the way out, almost, if not all the way, to the edge. And then once that's been accomplished, we go ahead and press that paper in, butter side up. And what's gonna happen is the butter in the pan is gonna help it adhere. And as we do this, we're trying to accomplish two things. Alright, we want to get that paper smooth out as flat as we can on the bottom with no major bubbles or bumps. And we also want to make sure it's pressed very flat against the sides without any huge creases. Alright, bits of small creases are fine, but we want to try to avoid large folds into which the batter might flow. And by the way, the alternative method for this would be to cut a round piece for the bottom and then cut one long hand that goes around the sides like you would for a springform cake pan. But to me this is easier. Anyway, both methods would work, so you decide. And then once that's set, what I'd like to do is take some scissors and sort of trim away some of the excess paper so it looks more uniform. And I think that ensures we have a more even browning. And by browning, of course, I mean burning. But having said that, don't trim too much. We definitely want to have an inch or two of paper left. And then what we do once our pan is prepped is set that aside and move on to this ultra simple cheesecake batter, which is gonna start with some very soft room temperature cream cheese, about 800 grams, and I'm not kidding this time. For this recipe to work out, it should be soft and spreadable. And then to our cream cheese, we will add a little touch of sugar, about 1 cup, as well as a generous pinch of salt, followed by some all-purpose flour, about 2 tablespoons, which according to the recipe is supposed to be sifted in at the end. But since we're doing everything wrong, you can go ahead and do that wrong too, without sifting. But anyway, once all that's together, we will take a spatula or wooden spoon and we will stir and smear that together until it's very smooth and creamy. And if our cheese is nice and soft, this is gonna happen very quickly. Alright, one of the jokes on Latakian's Nor Kitchen is me forgetting to take out the cream cheese, and then I try to mix it in when it's all hard and stiff, and it takes forever and it's really annoying to do. And by the end I make it up new curse words, but like I said, this time I did remember. So this really was a pleasure to cream, and it only took a couple minutes. And then what we do once that's been accomplished is switch from a spatula to a whisk, and we will start to add in our wet ingredients, beginning with a little bit of vanilla, 1 package, along with 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, followed by the first of 4 eggs, which by the way, like everything else in this recipe, should be at room temperature. And whisk in the first one, and once that's been completely incorporated, we will add the second. And the reason we're doing these one at a time is because those have to emulsify to keep the batter nice and smooth. And if we dump those all in at once and started whisking, the mixture would separate and we would have a big ugly mess on our hands. So while we're doing lots of things intentionally wrong with this recipe, there are certain techniques that must be followed. And adding the eggs once at a time here is one of them. Which reminds me, of course you can use your electric mixer for this, but as you know, my philosophy is if we ever can make a recipe all by hand, that's how we should do it, especially for a dessert, since the amount of calories you burn stirring in all of this together are exactly the same as a slice of a cheesecake. I assume. I've never actually crushed the numbers, but it has to be close. And then what we do once our eggs have been added is go ahead and stir in the last ingredient, which is some heavy cream, about 200 ml. And we'll go ahead and stir that in until nicely incorporated. And that's it. Once our batter has been mixed, we can go ahead and transfer it into our prepared pan, and then, at which point it's ready to be transferred into the center of a very hot 180 degrees Celsius oven for about 50 to 55 minutes, or until it buffs up and gets a very dark brown and the edges are burned. And then after about 55 minutes total baking time, and mine looked like these. Oh yeah, take that correctly made cheesecake. So forget the water bath and the slow and low oven. We are going with direct, violent, intense heat. And even though it's very brown on the outside, the inside is still very soft. And when you shake it, it's gonna look like this. You're gonna think maybe it's not cooked, but it is, because as it sits and cools and collapses, it will firm up to the perfect creamy texture. So we're just gonna let that sit cooling down to room temp. At which point we can go ahead and carefully lift that out onto a plate and remove the paper. And if you used enough butter, that parchment should come away from the sides pretty easily. But if you need to give it a little help with a spatula or a knife, go ahead. Oh, and by the way, the original is served plain, so that's what I'm going with. No decoration or food is needed. And then I find that it's too hard to remove all that parchment, so what I like to do is just go around with scissor and then we snip that away, leaving the parchment underneath, which is actually gonna make it a lot easier to transfer onto our final serving bladder. Although we are not gonna do that yet, since this needs to be very cold before you serve it. Now we're gonna go ahead and transfer that into the fridge until it's roughly chilled, at which point we can go ahead and transfer that onto a nice looking bladder, or if you want something like this. And that's it, our intentionally burnt cheesecake is ready to enjoy. We go ahead and serve that up, and that really was nothing short of magnificent, and one of the best cheesecake I've ever eaten. You can go ahead serve some melted chocolate on top of your beautifully smooth cheesecake too, and above and beyond stunning appearance and amazing texture. The reason these taste so good is the combination of the bittersweet brown bits with the sweet creamy cheesy lighter parts. Alright, it's a proven scientific fact that a little bit of bitter makes things taste better, especially sweet things. But anyway, that's it, my take on cheesecake. So to summarize, we disregarded every rule about cooking cheesecake and ended up with something that might even be better. So whether this is the first time you're seeing this, or you've been drooling over online pictures for a while, I really do hope you give this a try soon. Thanks for watching, and if you liked my video, please make sure to subscribe, like, follow and share so you can help me get more people to reach Latakian's Noor Kitchen. See you later!